And welcome back to Idaho Today. You know, oftentimes when we are trying to get in shape and gauge our health, we look towards weight to be the scale on how we are doing, but this may not always be the case. We have dietitian and athlete Erin Green here to tell us what we can and cannot control when it comes to getting into shape. So Erin, it is so great to have you here with us today. I want to know, because obviously you are a registered dietitian, you are an athlete, but help us understand, how is behavior versus weight? And why should it be more of a guide for our measure of health? Because like I just mentioned, we get on the scale, we're like, oh, I weigh this much, or I'm not losing weight, and oh, what's happening?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, behavior versus weight.
It's an important distinction because we often hear about weight loss,
yes,
right? When it comes to health. That's the first thing that people often think of, and they've maybe been told by their practitioners. We hear that conversation in our social circles, oh, I'm trying to be healthier, I'm dieting, I'm losing weight.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate thing is, and I say this all the time, weight loss is not a behavior. So even if weight loss is going to help your overall health, how are you going to get there? What are the specific things you're going to do?
Okay, so then let's talk about that. What are the top controllable behaviors to improve overall health?
So there's 4 that are widely researched in the literature that are really powerful, and they're just so simple that people won't pay attention to them.
Okay,
so things
they're
like
important.
5 fruits and vegetables a day.
All right.
If you can get 5 fruits and vegetables a day, that's a really important step toward your health. Movement regularly. I didn't say exercise, I didn't say going to the gym, I didn't say you had to join a class, but move your body regularly. The baseline recommendation for that is about 150 minutes a week, so it ends up being 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Really pretty doable for most people to get out and intentionally move, but
Okay, and let's talk about intentional movement though really quick, because I'm so glad that you mentioned, I'm not saying you've got to go to the gym and do all these things, but could it be something as simple as making sure that you're getting in more steps than you usually do? So like maybe you and I were talking before the show, parking in a parking lot further away from the storefront so you could walk a little extra. You get that extra movement.
Yes, absolutely. Make some extra steps. I tell some of my clients, when you're unloading the groceries from the car, take 1 bag at a time. Make those extra steps to get back to your car, Whatever you can do to move a little bit more is really important for people. And it sounds so simple that it's almost forgettable. People want something that sounds really hard, but the thing about hard behavior changes is they're really difficult to stick with.
They're hard.
Yeah. And people are less likely to stick with them. And so those are the top 2. And then we hear alcohol in moderation.
Yeah.
If you choose to drink. Sorry, you guys, but sometimes people hear, oh, moderate alcohol, so I should start drinking. Abstaining from alcohol is probably the best policy, but if you choose to have alcohol, keep it in moderation, and then stopping smoking or just don't start in the first place. So those are the 4 behaviors that really have solid research behind them. And we've been hearing this for decades, so it's nothing new.
It's nothing new, but it's just like you said, so easy to dismiss. And maybe even so easy that it's kind of hard to wrap your brain around what it really looks like. So when you're saying regular activity, I think people automatically go to, okay, I have to set my alarm super early and got to get up and go walk 5 miles. No, not necessarily. There's ways you can fit it into your lifestyle and to how you're already living. There was a couple more items on that list. One was regular sleep, right? A sleep schedule, which we hear time and time again, how important that is not only for physical but mental health, right? Your mental well-being, social connections, easier to be motivated to go do things, and eat well when you have somebody to do it with, right? And then practice mindfulness, which we also hear too in that mental health realm. Not only physical, but mental health, being mindful and being aware of where you're at. Why is it important that we talk about these things?
Well, think back to the beginning of the conversation. If you're focused on your weight, on the scale, that can be really frustrating for people you really don't have control over that. You have control over all of these other things, for the most part. And I'd like to point out that there's research that says that our weight is up to 80% determined by our genetics, our environment, our upbringing, our health status. Those are all things that we don't have control over. And so let's focus on this package of health behaviors and have those conversations around how does your life look and how do you fit this in a doable, consistent way for you, instead of throwing yourself into this mad dieting craze and these extreme measures to try and lose weight.
Erin, I love it. And you're always so inspiring. I love hearing from you and connecting with you. Okay, where do people go so they can hear more and be guided further?
So I have a podcast called Middle-ish, and we talk about these things all the time. You can find it on any podcast platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and you can find us on Instagram at Middle-ish Podcast. And then I have a website, eringreenracing.com. I offer nutrition and health coaching, and you can find me on Instagram as well.
Wonderful. Erin, thank you so much. Everyone stick around. More Idaho Today right after the break.